On the outskirts of a small town in Maine stands an old, abandoned house. The locals avoid it and prefer not to talk about it with outsiders. It's called the house on Holmes Road, and anyone who's ever dared to pass by it at night claims to have seen strange things. But one day, a group of friends, determined to uncover the mystery of the house, found out that there was much more than they expected. The group consisted of 4 friends: Jacob, Lisa, Emily, and Tom. They were all adventure enthusiasts and decided to spend the night in the old house, recording everything on camera to prove that the rumors were just that, rumors. The house was built in the late 1800s, and although it looked like a typical Victorian building on the outside, its windows were always dark, and its doors were locked. No one knew who had lived there, but it was said that the last owners had disappeared under mysterious circumstances, and the house had been abandoned ever since, as if time itself had left it behind. When they reached the door, the group felt the air grow colder. Tom, the most skeptical of them all, shrugged off the feeling. "It's just an old house. We've seen plenty of places like this," he said as he opened the door. It creaked as if it had a life of its own. Inside, it was dark, and they turned on their flashlights to light their way. The floors were covered in a thick layer of dust, and old paintings on the walls seemed to follow their every move with their eyes. They explored several rooms, but the further they went, the more they felt an eerie tension in the air. Lisa was the first to notice something strange. In one of the rooms, there was an old doll on a table that seemed to move. Its head turned when they entered, and its glassy eyes stared at them. "Did anyone touch that doll?" Lisa asked, trying to hide the tremor in her voice. "No one," replied Jacob, but his gaze was fixed on the toy. "It's just some old object." But as they continued exploring the house, strange things began to happen. First, doors would close on their own, as if some invisible presence was with them. Then, they started to hear soft whispers. But the scariest moment came when they climbed up to the attic. The attic was filled with old things, boxes full of useless papers, dusty mirrors, and suitcases. But in the center of the room stood a single item, a large mirror with a metal frame. It was covered in dust, but as they approached, the dust began to disappear, as if someone was wiping it from the other side. Emily was the first to look into the mirror. In its reflection, she saw not only her own figure, but also the figure of a woman in white. The woman was transparent, but she smiled, and her eyes were full of sorrow. "Emily, did you see something?" Jacob asked, noticing her confused expression. Emily recoiled, almost falling over. She couldn't believe her eyes. "There's someone there, she's standing behind me." Her voice was barely audible, but it made everyone look at the mirror. Tom, deciding to investigate, approached the mirror. But as soon as he did, the mirror suddenly cracked, and a crack appeared on the floor, as though someone had struck it from the inside. "It's time to go," he said quickly, backing away. They ran down the stairs, but the closer they got to the exit, the stronger the feeling that someone was watching them became. When they finally got outside, the doors slammed shut behind them with such a loud bang that they jumped. The house on Holmes Road remained empty, but its walls still held the secrets of the past, and behind every window, behind every mirror, it seemed that someone was watching those who dared to enter. The next morning, the friends found the camera they had left behind in the house and watched the footage. But to their horror, they discovered that in some of the shots, behind their backs, they could see silhouettes of those who once lived in that house. The woman in white was once again watching them, and that was the scariest part, her smile.